So I always like to start like, where did your story start? And can you give us, how you came about into this world of holistic healing through your own trials and tribulations?
Sure, thank you. Yeah, I had no idea this would be my path, but it all kind of makes sense now in hindsight. So my story, I was an avid runner, athlete, living in Marin, and it was a typical Saturday double workout day, training for the latest half marathon, and suddenly, now I realize not so out of the blue, but at the time, very out of the blue, my knee swelled up and my ankle, both on the right side of my body. Huge. And, tried the ice pack, just thought, oh, elevate ice, etc. will help. And I just quickly realized I needed to get it checked out. So within two doctor's visits, one, I went to a surgeon's office and did x-rays and scans, and they sent me down to rheumatology. And I learned when you get sent down to rheumatology, it's like a sentence you don't want to receive. You kind of hope you had that tear and needed a repair.
Yeah.
Because you just kind of get the looks like, sorry, you now have a life, you know, sentence that you have to work through. So
Right.
that's the feeling. Um, and I had a wonderful doctor, like absolutely fantastic. And it kind of felt like through a series of tests and questions, almost a process of elimination, we got to the diagnosis of rheumatoid arthritis or ankylosing spondylitis, psoriatic
Mhm.
arthritis. It was kind of within that group, just RA in general. Um, but I just kind of noticed, like, how can we pinpoint that just with these questions and a few tests? Like, it just always that something in my, gut was like that's interesting. And they prescribed medication. And in the beginning, I really said, what else can we do? So we tried to just drain my knee, shoot it with cortisol. I tried everything to not get on medication. And finally, my family intervened and said, you have no quality of life. You are not, you can barely even walk, you're on crutches. Um, it got that bad. I got my dog that I have now, and I could only bike with him to take him out. I couldn't even walk my dog. So
Mhm.
I just decided to get on medication for it, and it all went down. But in the back of my mind, I was like, I'm not going to just be this person that, sorry, I'm not going to be a person that just stays on this medication. I'm going to be the one to heal it. What they're saying, I just don't accept. I have a rebellious spirit, and I'm like, no, I'll heal this, no problem. So I worked with my rheumatologist and learned about on the side on my own nutrition, had, went to naturopaths, did all the protocols and tests to start working on my gut is what I learned. So everything was very gut focused. And then worked with my rheumatologist on a schedule to wean me off the medication and see if all my work behind the scenes had helped. And it would help, but everything, it would come back. It started to get farther and farther along, like maybe every few months it would return or every 6 months. Eventually it became like once a year, usually around stressful times with work.
Mhm.
I noticed. So it was just every time it comes back, it's just completely disheartening. I would just completely break down. You're at the point of just giving up because what is happening in my body, right? So around that time, years into this, I decided I needed to make some drastic changes. I was in the Bay Area work, I kept a very busy, stress-filled, rushing lifestyle. When I was healthy, I would run. I never could stop and meditate. I thought that was a waste of time. I was only focused on kind of my exterior, keeping up with everyone, being a great employee, friend, everything. And it was a lot. And so I decided to reduce one of my stresses and sell my house and moved. And that's when I really dove into my healing. I had more money to focus on it, hired more experts, took the time, I had less distractions, and really went headfirst into healing. I still kept a busy, stressful job, but I learned a lot more and got much closer. And kind of during that time, I noticed some things were happening. Like when I moved states, at that time I had eye inflammation, and I was back in California seeing an ophthalmologist weekly. I had medication, it was iritis. Basically, the whole right side of my body was kind of going haywire. And when I was moving, kind of the last thing I was thinking about while I was driving to a new state was, oh my gosh, how am I going to find a new ophthalmologist? I'm so fearful. And she worked with my fears. And I just decided during the drive, like, no, I can't handle that on top of everything else. I'm just not going to have this eye problem anymore. And I never did after that. So whether it's I didn't want to see something back in the last state, or I just willed it and decided, it worked. And I hadn't even heard of that really, but I realized later, like, oh, wait, I never had that eye issue again. So that was like a big eye opener for me. I also went to an intuitive masseuse while I was really sick. And so I had stuck arm, stuck knee, and she talked about what the body is trying to communicate, what the elbow might mean, what was happening at the time of my life when it started, that your knee can mean support. So what does that mean? So it helped me also think about, oh, maybe my body's communicating. So I just continued down that path of just learning and trying everything. And eventually, all the while I was facing trauma during this time, I had some childhood trauma I hadn't healed. I was starting to notice that I was really living fear-based. I had a weekly coach at this point, kind of working through a lot of this stuff, and I was facing it head on. And around this time, I had my second stress-induced panic attack while I was on a phone call with my boss at the time. And the next morning, I decided to quit my job. And that's kind of when everything opened up. And my elbow, so I had been waking up stuck. It was fine the next day. So once I quit, I moved to Lake Tahoe. Now we had the eye, the elbow healed, and I was healing my knee too. So from kind of making all these shifts and understanding, for me, it was the mind-body connection. It was being more attached, connected to my body, learning to love myself, create self-worth, step into, making these changes that are telling my body I'm important. With every single one, I was learning to heal myself. So that was all the like huge aha moments where, you can't just focusing on the gut helped, but it didn't heal it. So I had a lot of stuck emotions I had to face.